So before the podcast or interview starts, I just wanted to say that since I was small, I've had way too many people doubt me and my abilities and not believe in my true dreams. And my plan is to not follow those people at all or be shaped by doubt or from anything. And from that, I want to grow and build my persona professionally and everything in between the correct way. I'm using this platform to extend my growth onto you, my listeners. And this is ideally for learning purposes and growth. And hopefully, y'all can watch me become my greatest self little by little. And by extension, watch yourselves learn through me. Remember, the first lesson from this is that never let anyone tell you you can't do something. So if you're interested in that, please keep watching the video until the end, and I urge you to like and subscribe so that this message could reach and be helpful to others. I hope you all enjoy.
Watch me. Watch me. Watch me. Watch me.
Watch me.
That's
Okay,
cool.
so hi. Hi, everyone.
Hello. How are you, kiddo?
I'm good, Mom. So, hi everyone. I'm Layla. I know that this would be my first podcast. I've done one before, a visual with my mom, who's on the call today. Um,
We
her name is Raquel, so she will introduce herself quickly.
sure. I'd prefer that we go with Mama Bear on this call. I'm just kidding. No, it's Raquel de Souza, and that's the strange thing in our relationship now, as we kind of see you come into the career, is just having to speak to you as Leila, and you having to call me by my name and not Mom.
But yeah, that really does happen a lot. I remember the
does.
first time that I ever had
It's
to do
odd.
that was when I was like 16, and I was like, Raquel.
Invited on a
That's very
business
strange.
call, correct?
Yeah.
But we'll figure it out, yeah?
Yeah. So, for the listeners, could you just give a little brief past experience, kind of something, so that people understand who you are and
Surely.
what you bring in?
Surely. And I've started out as, and then kind of morphed into, and where that has probably led, and why you've come to me on this particular topic. I fell in love with branding. Started out though as a graphic designer, and as I continued to develop that skill, I fell in love with clients and finding solutions for their messages that they had to create for their respective markets. So, in a sense, having to service that the industry, as in advertising and announcing, I, as I went along, continued to develop my own business sense, and therefore I went way beyond simply those services, opened several other businesses just to enjoy, I think, maybe the responsiveness of it, developing brands.
So, ideally, you would call yourself a brand
specialist.
Okay.
Definitely, yeah.
I was going to call this video brand identity or finding your brand identity, but I'm sure of if that might be the correct way to do this video. Of course, I spoke to my mom beforehand about the context of this video, and she gave me a little bit more about her thoughts. That was when we were in Tobago and we were deciding on whether or not we were going to film it one time. And when she did give me a quick explanation, is that the truth about building a personal brand identity is it's kind of close to impossible without knowing what you are professionally yet and what exactly your product or service is. Like if you're trying to just start out or figure out who you are, especially at this millennial or Gen Z age,
correct.
just knowing your brand identity is setting up yourself a failure, kind of, you know. So I would say that that was one of my mistakes with regards to tackling this whole career or personality thing that I'm trying to create. And that's ideally where these podcasts are coming into play, where I'm trying to find my footing. So ideally, as we go on in this recorded session, Mom, it would be towards me just getting a better understanding of where my footing lies, what should be my next steps, or you have any like inspirational kind of words that would help me, or
I
um,
think was
yeah,
yeah, I get that, and the thing is, yes, we've had this conversation before. The most important thing is to recognize, though, that the sheer frustration that most young people feel is because most of the industry shuns their lack of experience
yeah,
without recognizing that they truly have a bit more of a way of facilitating uh, that continued process of messaging to the market. And I think that they are underutilized, and therefore they find themselves a bit lost. And that's why, with the clutter of both traditional and digital now, it's that it is very difficult for any individual to just simply determine who they are when they're kind of shifting through so much. I think that at its core, the it's always about finding out and figuring out as well that it makes no sense to develop any sort of message that isn't in fact going to be adopted or relevant to the market. And I think that even where and we're going to get into it down the road, but I think in every aspect of what is available, that's what is missing, and it causes, let's just say, each individual and or brand or company or identity that's being created to be struggling to establish the success that they're really hoping to accomplish from the onset.
yeah,
You really do have to have a plan and then strategize differently. And not just, I mean, yes, you do have to follow the rules to some extent. But if you do not have something to stand up in the clutter, then yeah, it's very difficult for you and or even myself continuing on after having 25 years plus in the industry. It is always going to be um, the challenge of
right,
kind of knowing then that you have something that is going to work. Okay, so it's important to know that whether you are at your age or I am at my age or someone else you follow, is that whatever has to become the identity you want to create is in fact um, more likely to get the response it needs by having something that is going to work.
right,
And it doesn't matter, therefore, if experience is against you. At least I honestly believe that. It just simply has to be that you recognize,
right.
is it going to reach an audience and be of relevance or useful? Which always gets back to the supply and demand issue of business in its true sense.
Yeah.
If that makes
So,
sense to you.
so then before we get on to the first question, I just wanted to reiterate that when we're going through these questions, feel no kind of pressure. It's kind of just like you're talking to me. So it's pretty easy just
Cool.
to.
Okay. Cool.
All right. So my first question to you, Mom, would be with regards to my position now, which is trying to navigate through this, well, shitload of skills and careers and possibilities, etc., and understand where I fit in this world. So, in my position, if you had
Mhm.
a chance to start from scratch with the knowledge and experience with the creative or even professional industry, how would you start and where would you start? Also keeping an idea of like the modern technology and
Mhm.
networking, how it's built during the years.
I mean, surely, yeah. I mean, that's a relevant, very serious question that I think is so difficult to kind of land the perfect answer on, because how are you going to know in the future what's really going to come? And surely, if when starting out, I had an idea of where we would be now with regards to the same thing, technology and so on, of course, I would have, um, kind of created a very different path to work towards that.
Yeah, I mean, if
However,
we all had a chance to start over,
exactly.
we would all be
But
like,
knowing now,
become
yeah,
fine.
but to answer the question, having seen how the industry did in fact unfold, and knowing that, I mean, where I started was where, we were literally the first of our kind moving from behind an art table to, computers, and
Yeah.
the speed at which the industry kind of pulled us in all sorts of different directions and and it continues that way, is that I would say that for someone coming out of the educational structure that there is, and what's normally kind of put forward to you, is to not necessarily be molded by what's available from an educational standpoint, to be more observant and to do a little bit more research into uh, fields and other kind of perspectives, because the information is now available in this time to then launch and create your own kind of journey, because it's, in our day we didn't have that. We had some, each household possibly had like printed encyclopedias and you had specific topics, but you didn't have um, a real time look at different options for what you want to do,
Right.
to make a living. Okay.
Yeah. With regards to trying to be different, I think that I did listen to something early on, I think this week, and it's with regards to being creative, I think that it falls perfectly in line,
Yeah.
because to stand away from all of the clutter of what everybody wants to be creative, because when we think about it, nowadays
Mm-hmm.
everybody can be a creative genius because they have all of the technical
Sure.
tools and stuff like that. So going back to the same question, how would you use the tools to your benefit?
Differently. Well, or how would I have addressed it then,
Yeah,
knowing now what I know? Um, I mean, I think it's important as well to recognize how things happened for me, because that's why I kind of started out the way I did, with slow down to rethink and use what's available to you now to really do the research. I kind of fell into graphic design by default because it was the only thing that was available to me, again, with limiting myself based on, at the time, what was available um, to me. I wanted
right,
to do architecture, but I didn't have TD because girls' schools in Trinidad didn't readily offer it, more so
right,
than the trade schools. I think boys were more likely to have technical drawing within their setting than we did at our girls' schools. So I then, being by nature a perfectionist, mastered it so well, which is graphics, that I then, was able to take that into the career that I did. Um, and whether or not I would do it differently now, having spent so many years, kind of being pushed and pulled through the technology, as in, okay, this is the next thing and this is the next thing, and now you've got to learn this, and okay, now you've got to relearn this, and okay, they've moved this tool, and you're like, I'm like constantly at school. It clearly not going to change, as the industry sees the need to create something different, they will, and then we have to kind of move around it. I think that what I would therefore then adopt moving forward is not to get us distracted in that process of learning that the industry kind of forces you into, and instead keep a clear path as to, okay, this is really what I want to do. Do I need to use TikTok? Do I really need it? And question, let's say, everything as it comes to you, and just kind of skip past some of that clutter. And I think then you'd have a better way of managing what's coming at us all kind of like daily. So, and deciding to pick and choose would definitely therefore save you a lot more time, and
yeah.
maybe, you'd get to that point sooner. If
I think that was actually
that's
really good
what I would do
advice because
differently.
with regards to the whole TikTok, you gave TikTok as an example. I was trying to explore the different media. So they have Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, all of those different platforms. And I tried out the TikTok thing, and after a while, I just wasn't enjoying it. I found that with regard to the content that I wanted to do, which was a lot more professional and growth inspired, I feel like audience retention is not there. The interaction and the community build is not there. And I'm not
Correct.
going to bash TikTok. I mean, there are the ups, like the funny videos and all of those different things. But I just feel like the audience that revolves around TikTok in particular aren't really looking for an
What you're trying
inspirational
to
kind of,
present. Correct. With that said, yeah, it means that the mere fact that you are able to do that at this stage trumps where I would have been then, because I didn't actually process that. I just kind of paddled
what
through
everybody else did.
each element as it was coming. And I would say that that's one thing I would advise you to do differently.
Right.
Test the waters on each and don't waste time on things that seem to not necessarily work for you.
So then again, that would be, you have to kind of be true to yourself and sit in reflection and see how things just fit.
Not too in depth, but generally, yeah. Does this work for?
Okay, I'm going too philosophical. Okay. Okay, cool.
But I understand why. I mean, most young people would want to overthink things because they generally are anxious to especially yourself, where you've been strong academically, you've been a fighter in most instances. You do want things to
resonate.
You do. So you don't really waste your time on things that don't work out for you well. You know, you just kind of, you have to make those decisions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So
question 2 then.
Yes.
Question 2 is, since our original idea of the video was with regards to personal brand identity, I'd just like to touch on that quickly, because I do think that we can draw some reference to it and discuss today, because I think it like fall hand in hand. So let's start there. There is a distinction between personal brand identity and appearance, but I would really like to know the difference exactly through your eyes, because I believe that I fall within the appearance category more than the personal brand identity at the moment. Now, when I say appearance, when I say appearance, I mean keeping your public appearance, strategic things that you wear, those kind of stuff, and public being on media platforms, etc. So yeah, I would say, what do you think the distinction between the two is?
Well, I mean, clearly as you said, appearance is about how you present yourself, and it is relevant, but it is useless without proper strategy and then an understanding of how it will in fact work for the audience you're trying to engage with. I mean, if it is that you think that as simple as it is, let's just say a simplistic font and the color purple will appeal to mature ladies as opposed to soft pink and cursive and frilly stuff. I mean, there are ways to define. I mean, using design elements there, but in a true sense as well, the way that you present yourself is with some sort of predetermined notion of what you believe would be enjoyed by the respective market or audience, right? Audience. Yeah. So the appearance, therefore, is necessary to have a plan for how you want to be seen, and or even, let's just say, the words you're going to use, having a script, knowing what your story is going to be a year from now, but generally, and then you kind of change it out as things happen. It's important to know how you're going to present, right? I'm going to leave that as appearance, whereas when we talk about identity, or even from a personal perspective, who we are and what we want to present ourselves to be, and or even a company has to do it in the same sense, is recognizing that a brand is something that has to have value, And it has to be that it will affect its audience in such a way that there will be repeat business or a sense of relevance to them, so they can connect with it and want more of it. And that is getting back to then knowing that, connecting the dots. It's not just about what you present, but it's relevance that is going to create success. It's still business at its core, right? But identity is the next thing. How do you adopt a message that is truly yours, that is unique, that can stand out beyond, let's just say, maybe 100 other individuals trying the same process? You can't just say, I'm trying to figure things out. You got to say, I have, to some extent, this is who I am.
Right.
And
Exactly what I'm
that's
doing.
the biggest challenge that you have been facing personally, because you've been exposed to so much. You've been exposed to, whether it is hats changing out on Mama Bear, whether it's real estate or dealing with somebody's company closing out and their desperate need to kind of
medicine.
reestablish.
I've gone through the work.
So there is so much scope that you've been exposed to that, kind of like, hey, this is like this. I could make money here. I could make money there. I can. However, I think the difference is then, as we do with any sort of market research, you go into it recognizing sometimes what's missing. What does the industry need? How can I own that to some extent and reestablish it and make it unique, and then create my niche and make sure then that I can stand apart from many other messages out there and become significantly of greater value so that you can jump ahead, right? If that makes sense with regards to personal brand identity and then becoming successful.
Okay, so then to dive just a little deeper and to bring in the quirky aspect of it, I wanted to pick your brain because I know that this has been a very big thing in the past. We've talked about this a lot as mother and daughter. I have this very stubborn way of staying with
stubborn. You say?
I say.
Oh my!
Yes, I do.
Stubborn is your middle name. Let's go on.
You know me. I don't like to wear makeup. I don't like to wear bras. I don't like to, and I am very stuck in those ways. Would you say that that type of appearance, would you say that was wrong in the new age?
I'm not sure I have an answer to that question. I think that what you're referring to, or let's just say some of your personal choices right now, and am I right? But you're trying to find out whether or not some of those things that you find comfortable
with regards to appearance might not be the professional type or the right way to go, or is it okay to just be yourself? And
I think that you genuinely have to be yourself. I just don't know. You see, I think that what I want to just kind of take, let's get out of that, and I'm just in Mama Bear mode here now, is that the most important thing that I've recognized between yourself, your sisters, by extension, anyone else that comes to me for support and advice, is that it is impossible for me to put myself in your shoes and tell you how you should feel comfortable and what does work for you. However, yes, we fall within those kind of societal norms where certain things are expected of us. You're going to a job interview, you should dress well or wear a tie and
wear a bra.
Yeah, wear a bra. It might help. No, but it's this is where, as a mom, I've recognized that it is not a parent's job to kind of mandate what you choose to do, as in what is your comfort zone, and it changes for everyone that I interact with. As I said, whether they come to me as mom or they come to me as in business, the fact is that I've learned over time, and my experience was that you shouldn't fit the mold. You should, in fact, determine what is your most comfortable setting, because you'll be unsuccessful, and you won't be significantly you. You won't be genuine.
Right. And that's
In
important.
It is very important, in more so now than when I started in my career, because you you must understand the reality um, of just media on a whole right now, and door messaging, is in real time. So we don't have time to fake it. But the ironic thing is that the majority of individuals that do want to capitalize on being seen are quite egotistical and plastic, in a sense, where they aren't genuine, and therefore I think those are the ones that will fall by the wayside, because they don't have um, a real message that is significant that others can connect with.
Right.
But that's the interesting dynamic that we can kind of reflect on, and maybe we wouldn't have enough time for that on this call, because
Yeah.
surely we can see how we do have kind of like this zombie-like behavior that is really not. It's just kind of like very, they're attracted to the short, irrelevant messaging to some extent, and those aren't anyway who you want to attract, because they're not really thinking beyond that. What's the next big thing? They just, and they don't want to engage.
Yeah, they
They're
don't
not
grow with
going to
you,
be
and that's ideally
inspired.
what my audience. Well,
They're not going to follow, and
yeah.
those aren't going to be, even in
Well,
back to basic business sense, they're not going to be the ones that get to the next level and actually engage and or purchase.
yeah.
Those, you know, no, they're just kind of breezing through, and unfortunately, with digital, that the attention span is even was um,
Yeah, I was watching this
unfortunately
thing and
fallen
they
short.
said,
It's much worse.
people today, their brain span or their attention span is not even of a goldfish anymore. It's less than a goldfish. It's a quarter of a goldfish. So
Hmm.
yeah, a quarter of a
Which
goldfish.
does make our job. It's why you really have to have the combination of the two worlds, the old and the new, to make sure that when you come up with something that is going to attract it, then it has to be within a few seconds.
Yeah.
And it has to work fast, and then get you to the next stage. But yes.
Hi guys, I just wanted to thank y'all if you all have reached this part of the video, my first podcast ever. If you are enjoying it, please take a second, actually, not even a second, a half a second to like and subscribe. That is, if you aren't already. And if you would like, after, leave a comment or review of something or a sentence in particular that resonated with you. Okay, that's it. Back to the video. So we're going on to question number 3. Now, the reason why I wanted to touch on the difference between those two, what we were just talking about before, which was question number 2, the difference between personal brand identity and appearance, is because I wanted to understand what preliminary aspect, if I'm saying that correct, preliminary aspect of brand identity can apply to my day-to-day professional persona and branding. And I know appearance would fall straight into that. And I know a lot of what I've heard so far is that I'm young and hopeful. At this point in my life, that sentence kind of just pisses me off every time I hear it, because these people that tell me that are ideally discouraging young people from pushing towards a bright, fruitful future. So, what would you say in that regard?
I think that earlier we discussed the fact that young people are discouraged, even in my time, as in um, by older individuals way too much. And young people rock. We are nothing without them when it comes to how the industry changes at the speed at which it does. Not only that, they have the ambition, and they have the their eyes are wide open, and with experience, as in personal experience, especially over the years that I have, a number of businesses that I've seen make that mistake. They've underutilized their human resources with regards to the younger teams within all organizations, and they give them a lot less credit than they need for the ideas to really come forth. It's the same thing of most CEOs telling me, we know what we're doing, but yet their businesses are failing. They think they know it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that if young people were given more scope within every organization and or project or task, that companies have a much greater chance of engaging with the audience and capitalizing on what's available, because they are just, I think their willingness as well to, they're not as demanding because they are in need of the exposure and the experience that they continuously, lose out on great opportunities. Where does that put you? Having had the scope that you've been exposed to and seeing the enthusiasm that you do have, I think that you can mold and shape very quickly once you have a general direction that you want to go in, because the ambition is there. And I think that once you settle past the multiple options that you obviously are kind of
Trying to
exposed to
navigate.
right now and decide, yeah. And I don't think that it's necessary to go through all, just like we were talking about, recognizing from the onset what technology works best for you. It means that even from a conceptual standpoint as to what you want to earn from, even if you choose to do multiple things, I think that you and many young persons out there would be able to um, make the right choices once given that general direction, that it is not about mastering what everyone else is doing, but it
Right.
is about
Your process.
trying, correct, being genuine, being real, deciding what works for you, and then, and that does sound difficult, I know, because I'm putting myself in your shoes. If someone
I
told
don't
me
think
that
it
as
sounds
well at your
difficult. I
age,
think it just sounds like a lot of work. And I think that that's the problem with young people today, is that because everything
yeah,
is
you
so
feel
quick,
overwhelmed.
they by just like the simplest tasks, they feel like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. My life is going to end. Like, and I
Yeah,
think
but I mean,
I've had
yeah,
to come
remember
to
we were
that
talking about the
realization.
attention spans are less. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's less
So
effort generally where they do want to be spoon
it's a
fed. But
battle. It is. But I think
well,
going over that hurdle is step one for sure. Yeah.
well, your process I think would be very different to me or Cassidy's in my direct, being that you all are so different. I mean, I have had to always had a hands-off approach with you, not just, I mean, from the time you were feeding yourself or learning to ride or wanting to just kind of this daredevil way you were as a child, was that I had to recognize that you were going to do it your way. You
Right.
are still the same way to this day. And another child, might say, okay, well, I want a little bit more help with this. I want you to kind of give me more direction on, and I want that support. You're not that way. You're not so inclined. And you have to recognize who you are and own that. And don't let anybody kind of scold you for it, because I'm not scolding you for it. I'm telling you that it did. Every parent, and or let's just say brand specialist, now I'm crossing over, has to also recognize that the decisions that have to be made is their process. It's not something that you can completely control or manipulate. There's no need for that. So you will figure it out. I'm confident of that.
Right.
Yeah. Don't get frustrated. You're already making some very big steps in kind of lessening the clutter that would become, let's just say, your journey. This whole thing that you're doing right now is ideally what most individuals should do. So I think that it's great, and I respect what you're doing.
Well, thank
So
you.
well done.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So then for question number 4,
Mhm.
ideally, I'm picking your brain again. You can give me an example or give me maybe one thing that maybe you would have done or what you think I can do with regards to what my brand is now, even though there's no brand really.
Mhm.
What I'm trying to sell. What do you think day to day or personal thing that I can do with my appearance is? Like whether that's taking a selfie every morning and posting it to Instagram so that people feel engaged. What would you give me advice with, like with that nitty gritty aspect of it?
Well, I mean, I don't know whether I'm fully equipped to give that answer, because the truth is that it's um, you would have spent more time with those respective tools or mechanisms than I have, and therefore I'm at a loss still as to which are the best to use to feature and present yourself at this point. I mean, as I say, in a general sense, every time I kind of become exposed to something, I say, oh, I can immediately, having had the years that I have, recognize that, okay, that's going to engage with a particular age group or demographic, and or household, if it's predominantly a religious household, or you follow,
Right.
back to attracts what is attractive to specific audiences. But I think the answer therefore lies in you then using that new knowledge that you have, and sitting down and just fan it all out and just kind of put it all together in front of you, stick it on a wall. Don't plan it in just one session, but put it out in view, um, just like you would when you're deciding to get from point A to B with a particular project or company, etc., and decide how you're going to plot that course, right? So that if you say, right now I have these things available to me, but I generally like to have, as you said, relevant information available to my audience, then tap into where that audience is most likely to pick it up, and make sure that's where you put yourself. If you know that, for instance, you want to launch a book, surely you're not going to connect with the publishing houses and the libraries and all the readers and those other social groups, right? But you're not going to connect with the gaming industry or individuals that are wanting to sit past things coming at them at the speed of light, that they don't want to read past more than maybe a few words. In the truest sense, in the same way as you decide, this is some of the things that I want to showcase, sell, or present as an individual, I want to make sure then that I understand where my respective audience will be. I think that would probably be the only advice that I could give you differently, is to take into consideration all that's available and narrow it down based on how you would meet your respective market's audience
So then,
most
diving
effectively.
deeper
If that helps.
Yeah, that does help a lot. I think that everything that you said so far is helpful. But
Great.
with regards
Sorry about that.
to diving a little deeper, I found with my experience through just life that surrounding myself with motivational people or people that have like a very high drive has helped me personally. And it has changed over the years because I mean nowadays I think that the Caribbean in particular, being living in Trinidad, I feel very enclosed and boxed in from all of the endless possibilities. Would you say that surroundings and making drastic changes, like maybe migrating um, or it doesn't have to be as drastic as migrating. It could be making sure that you come out of your house once a week to go in a cafe to study,
There you
something like
go.
that. Do you think that that is a good way to kind of motivate yourself daily or get you
I
on
think,
that track?
yeah, and this is where we're going to have to get a little bit more philosophical in a sense, because it's unfair to not, well, to advise a younger person, not just you as my daughter, but anyone, to not want to see more. And yes, the concept that the grass is greener on the other side is relevant because you haven't yet had a chance to see much. And that's where you're going to feel boxed in.
Yeah.
Correct. You have very much, okay, this is where you live. It's very logistical. This is where we live. This is where I've gone to school. This is therefore immediately the industries that have become exposed to me. Dad's been in sales
Because I mean,
and an
thinking
executive.
about it as
Mom's
well.
been in sales indirectly and or in a creative sense, gone further with regards to how those sales translate. But
like
the
thinking about
truth
it with regards to your
then,
story, you were very limited when you first started. You wanted to do architecture, you said, right? And you didn't have that option because females, women, or children, your children, did not
at
have
the
the
time, they
option
weren't, not a lot.
and it's still like that actually in Trinidad, and I think in multiple different Caribbean countries. So yeah.
Yes, yeah. There's a bigger. There are a lot of challenges that you kind of touched on there as well as me a bit. But I think that the direction I was going in that sense is that it is okay to want to see and to do a lot more, but you can do things differently in what you choose to absorb. Meaning, if I, at this point, could say it differently to you, it's that just like with choosing the media, you can choose your experiences wisely, because a lot of what we now understand to be, and you've done this better than I have at your age, is making time for what is, there's a better return on your investments, right? Whereas I would have spent a lot more time kind of being pushed and pulled in different directions. Honestly, I think I could have done that better. And you don't waste time on things that you recognize is not working for you.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that going with regards to your personal and or professional choices. Is it working? But explore. I'm saying yes, of course you'd explore. I am still exploring and trying new things, but it is more the issue of living in the moment. Everybody's out there. You see everybody with their different messages about living, is you are going to be doing well no matter where you are and not feeling stuck no matter what you do. If it is that you do continue to recognize how many things are working in your favor. And, I'm not very religious in the way in which I've been raising you girls, in the sense that, okay, it's about blessings and we have to, open up for, but even if you take that into having a positive attitude in the simplest sense, it is that's really what you need to then combine with that exploration or that ambitious kind of next step on a day-to-day basis, is really and truly where you're going to be successful and or happy. You're not going to do it if you keep feeling like I've not done or seen the world yet, and there's this constant, it's in the future yet to happen my way.
Mm-hmm.
Each day I see tremendous growth in myself and or you all, and or just everything around. And that's something that, just imagine how much more grand each experience would be if we owned it that way.
Right.
So that would be my that would be my advice on that in particular. Don't feel boxed in if it is that with every concept or project that you attend to, you don't consider your setting ideal in real time,
Okay.
if that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Okay. So then
It goes for me too. As I said, it goes for everybody. Everybody. It really does.
I know. And I think that one of the main things, I don't know if y'all are hearing birds in the background, but that's living in the Caribbean for you. One of the main things
Mommy's in
that
the
then
bush.
I could, yeah, mommy's in the bush and Layla's in concrete jungle, but it's still like a whole bunch of nature and sounds and cars passing on the main road and all kind of thing.
Yes, it's literally in the rainforest.
But one of the things that I could then be positive about is that in Trinidad or in the Caribbean, there's a lot more of a community-based aspect to it, and growing
Sure.
is growing in a professional sense is a lot. I wouldn't say easier, but I would say that the community aspect, as I said, is there, and that
Yeah,
is
there are benefits.
you, and it does
Yeah.
benefit with growing.
It's comforting, but then, yeah, again, you can always come back to that in a sense. You can still explore.
Right.
But
But
I am confident that you will explore with relevance. Yeah, you're not going to waste your time on things that don't serve you. So, hey, I did something right.
Yeah. Okay, well then,
but you did most of it on your own.
We've reached our last question, but the thing is, with this last question, I have to kind of explain it a little bit because there's a little bit of context to it. So I'm just gonna.
Sure.
The last question, I think it's juicy, because it's with regards to social media, and I know you would have glanced at these questions before, so you have a good enough answer to it.
Of course.
But we are gonna put our creativity hat on because I know that's like your ideal situation. You come up with great concepts. That's just who you are. That's your personality. So in this this audio, I would really love to get some insights on you and what you would do. So in class, we were discussing social media and the echo chamber effect. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Only because it actually went in as you say, the being pre-exposed to the question. So I just
So, and that
sure.
word is used to describe the disconnectivity of social media because it's like the divide between content interaction and interaction with the scroller and the creator. So the disconnectivity of social media, which is kind of like oxymoron because when you think of social media, everybody's like, oh, it's connectivity. But with regard to the echo chamber effect, it's an environment, I'm reading out the definition now. It's an environment where a person only encounters information or opinions that reflect and reinforce their own. And echo chambers can create misinformation and distort a person's perspective so that they have a difficulty considering opposing viewpoints and discussing complicated topics. So, like how we're discussing and we're learning from your perspective and my perspective with regards to social media, that entire connection between two people is gone. So I'd like to to go into that a little bit more, and I think that with regards to what we're talking about, it's a great reference to put some perspective on what I'm trying to say, which is that what do you think about social media? What do you think about it being disconnecting or connecting?
The challenges of it in that regard. Yeah. I think that one of the greatest things that even now when I still communicating with clients directly is, in the challenges that they had with understanding the complexity of digital platforms and how to best utilize it was that exact echo chamber kind of effect of social media. Because obviously, if it is that they don't again have a general understanding of those individual media elements, it means then that or if they have the time, let's just say, to test, try and true, they don't have the budget to therefore test it all. It means that yeah, it's important to recognize that in any advertising, even if we go back to in a traditional sense, that you're not there to appeal to the entire audience as a whole.
Right.
If we take that concept out of it, if we strip that out of that in reality, let's go back to basics is always what I would tell you when we're dealing with supply and demand. As we were talking throughout this whole chat here about relevance, right?
Mm.
What is relevant is really and truly what you have to use in this particular timeline, and know then even in the way in which you utilize it and or present it as a service to prospective clients is going to be the difference between where most individuals are going out there and simply presenting the options and not recognizing how to use it differently. What I mean to say is that if you forget to create the need in your market's life and or something that would motivate them to that next step, it doesn't matter whether you are using modern or traditional means to communicate. It means that you are going to zone in effectively to reach the audience, because you are, even if it is that they don't have a need for it, they recognize with it something that is beneficial to them. You'll get engagement and possibly new usage and or sales and or you follow next step is in whether it is to influence a crowd, etc. And your message simply becomes hip and or, as you say, it is the next thing and everybody's doing it. It just simply has to become beneficial. So with regards to how I would use it, I would still go back in every step of the way, every project individually, and not try to solve every single one with the same strategy, obviously. Mm-hmm. Recognize the uniqueness of each individual project or message that's being created, and that is truly, even if let's just say someone creates something new and there isn't even a market for it, you would then have to recognize what about it that makes it is being created to appeal to a prospective market on, and then create the message then that someone who has never tried or tested it before may consider. Of course, it's much easier to sell something that there is an established liking for. I'm not saying that, let's just say if you launch a new chocolate tomorrow or coffee or beer, that you're going to have the easiest job. But to acquire taste, you're going to know, all right, I've got to go out there, I've got to give away quite a bit of what we are about because it's new and we have to invest, and that is part of our build. We're going to have to decide from a startup perspective that we're going to have to get this thing known, right? But it then means that once you've created and launched to some extent what is unique about your product or service, you then go back to the basics with regards to whether it is traditional or social and digital, to say, okay, this particular product appeals to this particular user, and this is where they're at, this is what they watch, this is what they do, whether they all pick up their phone first thing on the morning or they spend a certain number of hours each day doing a particular task, etc. There's enough research and there's enough information available to then create a plan. That's really what it's about. That's what I would always do. Create a unique plan to whatever the respective product or challenge is.
Cool. Well, we've reached the end of the podcast. First podcast. Yay!
Okay.
But before you go, I
Dun, dun, dun.
really quick,
Sorry.
which is just a little fast-paced, kind of fun. I'm just gonna ask you some quick questions, and you can give me an answer within like 10 to 20 seconds. Just on,
Gosh, this is gonna be hard. I
yeah,
hate
it's like
this.
on the spot. So, number one, how
And
was
I
your
don't remember. I actually was supposed to reread. I didn't read all of that, so
That's okay. It's
let's hope
really
that
easy
I don't.
question. Don't worry.
Freeze.
How was your
Go ahead.
experience today based on our last podcast that we did, um, which I'll leave a link below, everyone. I think, I don't know how it works on Spotify yet, but we'll work with it. I'll leave the link somewhere. Um, because of the last
Um,
time, you said you were a little nervous. So, how is it? How is it different today? And do you think that it's kind of grown a little bit? And yeah, how is it different?
I think it's fine, especially to that, there's just, it's a conversation we've had. Um, we've always had,
Conversation.
meaningful conversations. So
Yeah, I would hope
it's
so.
easy in that regard, just sitting and chatting with you.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't difficult. I think that a lot though that what I it's hard for me to explain to you is that yeah, with the number of things that come at me by a certain time, yeah, I'd be a little nervous that I don't have a lot of time normally to sit down and do
Just
this.
chat. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm hearing all of the animals around and just kind of thinking, when is it going to interrupt?
Now, when she says animals, she doesn't mean because she's in the bushes. She means for children.
And by extension, all the other things that do come. I mean,
So
it's
then,
fun and
no
all, but it
cameras.
doesn't accommodate a lot of this. Yes.
No cameras was fine. I was just kind of, I'm trying it out. So you find no cameras is fine. Or
I
like the video more.
I think I don't mind the cameras per se. I just think that I have to just plan a space that doesn't show too much
Yeah, white background.
of the madness of our space. Yeah.
Put up a sheet.
You know what I mean?
So okay, so then next question is, how do you think I'm doing so far professionally? Quick answer.
I think quick answer. I feel confident for you. I feel confident watching you kind of do this, and it really gets back to what I've said before because you don't really waste your time with bull. If
Okay.
it's not working, you figure yourself out and you move on. What I wish you would do differently is trust the things that make sense more and spend a little bit more time with it.
Because I do jump
And
all over the place, and I was gonna touch on that.
but you don't jump all over the place without relevance. It's just really just trying things out, which is great. I mean, as I
But I
said,
don't
you
give it a
tried
chance.
nearly every sport and or extracurricular activity there was. And there
But
was
I never gave
somewhere
it a chance.
I did step in and say, okay, this one really isn't for you, kiddo.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Or yes,
Guys,
yes, the
she turned around and
dyslexia,
told me
having
that
to follow a group
I
in a
don't,
mirror,
I don't
that did
belong on
not
the
work.
stage. Get off of
But
it.
no, but there's so many others where, your father would call me and say, man, she just face planted a rock under the ocean, or
Oh yeah.
flew off a precipice and landed in bamboo. I mean,
Mountain bike riding.
yeah,
You tried all of them.
that,
Yeah.
it never changed from the time you can walk. It never
So
changed.
then,
And I say,
trust
keep going,
myself.
but definitely stick with things a little longer before you ditch it.
Okay.
When you're trying it, once it feels right, and I'm not saying spend too much more time on it, but if it is that it feels right, I think that you can adopt a few more things. I think you're capable of it. Yeah, just stick with more.
Okay. So then our last question is, what is your main inspiration every day, and what do you think other people may use as an inspiration? Now we're taking into reference the audience. What do you think? Yeah.
Ooh, I'm not even. That's a big question. That you can't just tick that into a few seconds. But that's rough. I find inspirational the love of seeing how people learn. Teaching at its core, but beyond the traditional schooling, I do think that it is the most inspiring thing to watch how people exactly what you're doing figure themselves out. I think that it is something that warms my heart every day, that I look forward to. You fall down, you say, okay, that hurt. How could I have done that differently? Yeah.
Right.
And I think that that's what I personally love.
For humans being true humans.
And being able to be blessed with being Mama Bear. I mean, you'll have no idea how much you'll give me true purpose and meaning. That's the truth. So yeah, that's my love.
Thank you so much, Mom, for being on the podcast today.
You are very welcome, Longfoot.
I think that what you said would resonate with a lot of people, and I hope it does. And I hope that everybody that did listen today continues to listen to all of my other ideas, because I am going to be sticking with this, taking the advice that she gave me.
Good, that's super. So yeah, this wasn't too hard. Our first one was
cool. Thank you for being on my first podcast.
You are most welcome, and I will continue to be here.
Thanks.
Okay. Cool. Bye.
Bye.